Queen City News is your local election headquarters. States across the country today are taking to the ballot box, voting for who they would like to represent their party to win the White House.
We want to take you to a live look here at a polling location. This is in San Francisco, where polls are open for several more hours. And while it's looking like a Donald Trump and Joe Biden rematch is likely inevitable, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is adamant she is not going down without a fight.
All right, so here's a look at the individual races for the presidential nominations. Former President Trump, after his win last night in South Dakota, now has 273 delegates. Rival Nikki Haley has 43. The magic number for the Republicans is 1,215. President Biden is well on his way to becoming his party's nominee again with 206 delegates. He needs 1,968 to secure the nomination.
From the Carolinas to the Capitol, Queen City News has got you covered for these major presidential primaries happening on this Super Tuesday. And we want to start with our Washington correspondent, Raquel Martin, with what we can expect come closing time tonight. Raquel.
Brian, Annie, well, this is the most significant day for voters since the start of this election cycle. Tonight's results could determine if this is the beginning of the end for Nikki Haley and mark the beginning of a matchup between President Biden and Donald Trump. Millions of Republican voters across 15 states and one territory are making their choice for the GOP candidate for president.
This is about the American people.
In her final campaign stop before Super Tuesday, GOP candidate Nikki Haley urged her supporters in Texas to cast their votes.
We all have a chance to make our voices heard.
But if you believe the polls, Haley is in for a disappointing night. The polls say former President Donald Trump is leading Haley by 50 to 70%, depending on the state, and is already looking forward to a rematch against President Biden.
We're beating President Biden in almost every poll.
President Biden is painting a different picture.
My poll numbers, the last 5 polls you guys don't report, I'm winning.
But faces some opposition within his own party.
I voted uncommitted.
Tuesday, more voters are promising to follow Michigan's lead, where more than 100,000 people voted uncommitted as a protest over the president's handling of the war in Gaza.
I think the Biden campaign really wants to nip this uncommitted voter in the bud.
Political analyst Todd Belt says Super Tuesday's results will provide fresh insights about what voters are thinking, and it may be Haley's last hurrah.
In all likelihood, we're probably looking at the end of the Haley campaign after Super Tuesday.
Now, over the weekend, Haley vowed to stay in this race as long as it remained competitive, but notably, her campaign does not have any events scheduled come tomorrow. For now in Washington, Raquel Martin, back to you guys.
Raquel, thank you. Our coverage continues with Queen City News Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes.
And Khalif, there is a major question here that Raquel was just talking about, and it talks about Haley. You know, she did pick up some steam with D.C. and a couple of Senate endorsements here. But if she loses tonight with Super Tuesday, where does she go?
That D.C. one was a misnomer. I mean, you're talking about most of the folks that are voting up there are not the typical folks that are going to be voting for in these 15 plus states that are on the ballot for tonight. And so I would say don't get your hopes up. I think it'll be a long night for Nikki Haley and anyone that supported her. The magical number is 1215 that Trump needs to get to. He walks in tonight. Even if he cleans every number and kicks every state, he still can't mathematically win it tonight, right? He can't get to that number. The closest he can get to is 1,100 and something. If you take all 865, he cannot get to 1215 tonight. But he can show that Nikki Haley has no chance. She has no road to victory. There is no clear path politically. I think there may be a clear path legally if the troubles don't pan out for the former president. But politically, there is no clear path to victory. Even if she wins some of those votes, have partial breakdowns where she meets a threshold like North Carolina. If no candidate gets 35% of the vote, she has a chance to be able to at least win some of the delegates. But I don't see in any state where she can walk away and say, you know what, I showed the people that I should be the next president, at least or the nominee for my party.
Well, a lot of people thought that after she lost South Carolina that she would bow out, and she didn't. So if she stays in this race, does Trump increase attacks on her? Because he's been attacking her, of course, as always, but maybe not as much as he would.
All the way up into that South Carolina race, we saw that he attacked her husband, attacked her personally, made all these number one shots at her. And then at some point, if you look at that speech that night, he didn't mention her name. and it's been a foreshadowing of what was to come. He hasn't really mentioned her since then. I think his team has told him to let's look past Nikki Haley. There's really no more reason for an attack. You are the established front runner by about 4 or 5, 6 miles if you want to do real math on this. And so there is no chance for her to catch him. Right now, the only thing that he needs to do is focus on Joe Biden. And so as he continues to do that, really the best thing that he can do politically is to act like she doesn't exist, because it seems like the voters are already doing that. If you're looking at the polls, which is ironic, 2016, the polls got it wrong. Every poll had him losing. They had him losing by a landslide. And now these same polls are saying he's up by 60 or 70%. And it seems like those polls are accurate. So it's giving you a real pulse of the Republican Party, specifically the MAGA portion of the party that is trenched in putting dollars in votes behind their candidate.
And that's an interesting point there, as far as it being the Republican vote only, and she thinks she can win for the general election. But an interesting new poll here about Trump's base: more than 20% of those planning on voting for President or the former President Trump believed he has committed a serious crime. And that's according to a New York Times Siena College poll. 68% says he has not committed any crimes, and another 12% said they were not sure or refused to answer. Trump is entangled in just a number of court battles across the country at the federal and state levels.
And so, Khalif, this is something we have clearly seen, especially this past year. It doesn't really seem to matter what Trump does. His base will continue to support him.
It's had zero impact on his electability, and that is something that's not normal in an era where we have a fight to move ban the box. You have candidates that are not, I should say, potential job candidates that are looking for a normal job, a 9 to 5. They have to write on there, I've been convicted of some type of offense. And there is a fight in multiple states to remove that because there has been a discredit of their ability to do the job. But we have this individual that you can pick a state, and he's potentially facing some type of either criminal or civil suit in that state. And now you have half of the country that is supporting him. So it shows that there is a disbelief in the justice system, and it shows that there is a distrust in the Department of Justice. And their narrative is actually taking the day.
All right, Khalif, thank you. We'll see you later on tonight.